How you doing, guys? Welcome to the Bearded Devil channel. I am, of course, the Bearded Devil. This video is gonna pretty much be a quick, kind of a summation of the arguments I want to present against veganism, and I wanted to kind of put it in more of a cohesive manner, which is some of the previous couple of live stream videos haven't exactly been altogether coherent, mainly because of apparently recorded a 2 hour long live stream where I didn't have any sound coming from my screen. So the video that I broke down, you didn't get a chance to hear any of it. But of course, if you're familiar with the video, then you can just kind of follow along. Now, in the previous video, uh, sort of kind of I can be a little scatterbrained. I'm not even gonna lie. So what I'm gonna do is basically we're gonna do our best to eliminate a lot of that scatterbrainedness by putting it in more of a cohesive format. Okay. Sort of like doing response videos where, I mean, I'm not necessarily going to be scripted so much as I'm going to be, I'll have basically some information and commentary and kind of more of a lecture than anything else. Now, of course, these will be live, so that means that anybody who wants to throw in their comments in the chat section, by all means, go ahead. I may completely ignore it. I have no idea. I could, you guys can sit there. If we've got more than one person in the chat, then y'all can fight amongst yourselves. And if anybody, if I see something that's pertinent, then obviously I'll mention. But as it is, let me just do a quick screen share. I'm gonna kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. All right. Basically, I'm going to cover these three areas. These are the three most common kind of forms of veganism. You have, of course, the health-conscious vegan individuals that either choose veganism because of some kind of, either they want to be healthier or they, all this kind of stuff. Now, believe it or not, these guys are actually more of a minority when it comes to vegans, simply because most individuals that become a vegan is more of a moral argument. It's more they do it for more an ethics reasons, things like that. Health is just one of those kind of like the what you call it, the side effects, or at least in their minds. Now, of course, you do have some that are they go for the health and they'll argue from the health. And when they do that, they're arguing from more or less from a biological standpoint. And I'm going to tackle, as far as that, I'm going to tackle human biology and how it relates to veganism, and pretty much how, in all honesty, it doesn't. And I'll get into that. Some of there's a handful of arguments that fall under the health and biology that, in all actuality, once you debunk them, that's it. There's nothing that once you've gotten rid of those, and most of it is half truths and whole lies, as it's been put before. When you cherry pick just right, you can push for your ideology from a health standpoint. And that's precisely what health conscious vegans, the ones who are, case in point, like Vegan Gains is a good example. He sits there and he'll cherry pick. He literally has 2 or 3 studies that he sits there and brings up, and that's it. Those studies, those are his doctrine. Okay, that's his proof that he's right. Which that's not how that works. Because for every study, for the 3 studies 3 or 4, for the handful of studies that he's got, there are dozens that go to each one that can sit there and say, no, sorry, that's not right. All right. This is where the use of studies will come into play as well. Now, for the second one, you have the environmental vegans. Now, environmental vegans, they think basically they are the firm believers in the vegan utopia. These are individuals that, and this was also what's called a nirvana fallacy. Basically, that everything can be achieved through veganism, and it all stems from how it relates to the environment. And if we stop eating meat, then everything will be hunky dory, perfect flowers and sunshine. Only that's not how it works either. And again, this is where we'll do a lot of discussing. I'll discuss like the animal agriculture industry as well as industrial agriculture, as far as like crops and whatnot, and how that interplay with the environment, and how much interplay is with the environment, and how in all actuality, you know, if you eliminate the meat part of it, it really doesn't change anything. And I'll go into that as far as the environmental aspect is concerned. Now, the reason why I'm hitting up these, health because it's personal, environment because obviously, it's what you live in. Before I hit morality and ethics, is because once the first two arguments have been debunked, or have been laid to rest, then that means that leaves very little for the moral argument to have a stand, because one of the main things with the moral argument is the fact that the pushing of what is what is a necessity and what is not a necessity, and a lot of that boils down to the first two arguments on what can be deemed as needed, not needed, and whatnot. Now, without those first two arguments, the third argument breaks apart really fast, and it basically ends up boiling down to feelings. By systematically going through each component, you'll soon find that veganism is like every other ideology. It has its own precepts. It has its own hypocrisies that are involved, and a lot of fantasyland bullshit. Right. And in all actuality, that's really all I wanted to kind of do. I wanted to kind of bring all this into light, and I noticed that you can look up arguments against veganism, here on YouTube, or even doing a Google search, and 9 times out of 10, you're just gonna find videos by vegans where they sit there and list off a bunch of the craptastic arguments that some non-vegans have, and they play off of those as if those are supposed to be valid arguments. I'm going to be presenting valid arguments, and I'm not going to be relying on, oh, well, we got canines and lions eat meat. No. Those have nothing to do with the process. And it is funny that these are arguments that, yeah, again, a lot of non-vegans do go for, but the bad part is a lot of vegans will sit there and prop those up, on their little signage and say, oh, well, see how stupid these guys are, we must be right. That's not how that works either. Just because a host of people do have bad arguments doesn't mean that you're right. It just means they didn't argue it very well. So I plan to do that. I'm going to go ahead and present some arguments. And yes, I am going to point out blatant hypocrisy. Okay. And for the most part, every step has some form of blatant hypocrisy on the part of the vegans, mind you. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of non-vegans that are kind of hypocritical in their beliefs. But there are, of course, if you have a set standard of beliefs and you follow those beliefs, nothing dictates that each of the individual beliefs that you follow actually have to coincide with each other. Like I can eat meat and have pets. And I'll go into that. Things like that seem to be hypocritical, but in essence really aren't. As long as they're following some part of your value system, uh, you're able to follow, your own personal uh, morals or health or how you treat the environment, all that kind of stuff. There's ways of going about it that you don't have to be vegan, and that's the whole thing. In essence, nobody has to be vegan. Veganism is an unnecessary thing, just as much as Christianity is unnecessary, Judaism is unnecessary, Mohammedanism is unnecessary. Any other ideology is unnecessary as a whole. Now, some people find, that following these particular brands of ways of life, they find it, yeah, okay, fine, it worked for them, gravy. But it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it correct. It doesn't make it anything other than subjectively okay. That's it right there in a nutshell. It's okay for you. The moment you sit there and tell everybody else that they have to be this way, it's no longer okay. And that's no different than the Christians going door to door telling you're going to burn in hell because you don't believe in God. It's the same thing with Mohammedists who blow people up because they don't follow the precepts of their religion. Even amongst the believers of reincarnation, saying that you're not going to reincarnate if you don't follow these particular guidelines, or you'll reincarnate into something below what you are right now, or lesser. It's really not much different than someone who says you're a bad person if you don't stop eating meat, or you're a bad person because you do eat meat, or whatever. This is feelings as opposed to really anything. Because after all, what is the determination of good and evil? In essence, it's how you look at it and who's doing the looking. The bad guys never really do think they're the bad guys, right? It's not until after the fact where a lot of people go, yeah, you guys were the bad guys. In terms of dietary choices. Is there a bad guy? Is there a good guy? That's an interesting question. And we're probably going to be touching base on that. But that's a general overview. Tackling the health, the environment, and then I'll be hitting the morality and ethics and arguments. You might find that some things I'll agree with, some things I won't. A lot of things I won't. As a whole. And of course, more or less, I'm not going to agree with vegans on probably 95% of anything that they spew, much less the ones who get on platforms and profess how veganism is just such the best thing ever. Okay. But that's really it. Just a quick breakdown. If you've got any suggestions for each of the topics, go ahead and let me know in the comment section, because this is pretty much the end of the video, the end of the live stream. I've been the Bearded Devil, and you guys have been cool as fuck watching me. All right. Till next time, guys. I'm not. I will say that I don't know particularly how long each segment will be. If there'll be multiple videos, I'm gonna try to keep them each under an hour. No guarantees, and if I have to, I'll break it down. As many ways as I can, so that way you're not bored to shits. And there's not a whole lot of till deer and all that kind of shit going on. Other than that, see you guys next time. Later.